Rich was invited to the Scientology Center via pamphlets being handed out. One afternoon, he went into the Sunday service that he was invited to, then on to L. Ron Hubbard's birthday party he was invited to, but wasn't graciously accepted when he got there. And when we last left, he was inside the Scientology Center during the anonymous protest and had just been pulled into a classroom for his first lesson and raised the question about aliens.
Right. I asked him, I told him about a friend of mine who didn't like me going to the Church of Scientology, and I said that my friend told me that these guys worship aliens, right? Well, the guy across from me from the center said, yeah, we get that a lot. And I said, well, where does all that come from? The guy said, well, L. Ron Hubbard was a science fiction writer, so people use their imaginations, and I'm going to brush this one off tone. So I stopped. I said, well, my friend talked about that South Park episode, and he just nodded like, right, the South Park episode. By the way, everyone who you talk to there seems to know about the Scientology South Park episode. If you have not seen it, here's just a quick clip where they describe what this is what they say is what Scientologists actually believe.
There was a galactic federation of planets, which was ruled over by the evil Lord Xenu. Xenu thought his galaxy was overpopulated, and so he rounded up countless aliens from all different planets, and then had those aliens frozen. The frozen alien bodies were loaded onto Xenu's galactic cruisers, which looked like DC-8s, except with rocket engines. The cruisers then took the frozen alien bodies to our planet, Earth, and dumped them into the volcanoes of Hawaii.
So I asked the guy, I said, my friend was telling me about this alien lord named Xenu, Thetans, aliens being dropped into volcanoes in Hawaii, possessing our souls, and the guy kept nodding, and in his defense kept pretty calm. He said that it's called OT3 in the Church of Scientology. What actually is OT3? Well, there was a slight pause and a deep breath that let me know that I was in for a long answer. And the long answer theory was then confirmed when he answered with, all right, let me show you this. He then grabbed one of those huge charts I was telling you about titled The Bridge to Total Freedom, Scientology Classification, Graduation, and Awareness Chart of Levels and Certificates. Oh. He then says, OT, by the way, stands for Operating Thetan, not Thetan like it said in that movie, or in that's said in the media, Thetan. And I almost said rhymes with Satan, but I held back. And OT3 is a level that you can achieve as you move up in Scientology. He then explained to me that Thetan is your spirit, your spiritual being, and that the word Thetan is taken from the Greek word for theta, or life, for the spirit. He then to make a very long explanation short, he walked me through the path of Scientology, where you start with introductory classes like the one I was going to take today. You take several courses, mainly concerning Dianetics, and then you become what's called a clear. Now, clear, as I understand, is when you have all your bad memories removed, or as the church calls them, engrams from your reactive mind. And basically, it's when you're supposed to be completely happy. And you think that would be the end, right? Once you're completely happy, why do you need any more courses? Well, that's when you hit the OT courses. And he started telling me about what happens in the OT classes, and at one point, he mentioned something about multiple lives and rebirth, and he said, listen, do you think it's a coincidence that Newton died and then years later Asimov finished his work, and don't you find it strange that some kids are amazing at playing the piano by the age of 4, trying to justify why there's previous lives, and all this stuff right now is just kind of blowing my mind, and it's literally been 45 minutes he's describing this whole thing, so my mind's become mush, and finally I had to sit there and kind of go, what the hell are you talking about? So once again, after all of that, I ask, well, so what is OT3? His answer, that's just another level of classes you take when you pass clear. I said, but does it talk about the Lord Xenu, aliens, volcanoes, or anything like that? He said, well, the chart right here doesn't say that. There were 2 sentences next to OT3 on the chart. They read OT3, the wall of fire, and the return of self-determinism, freedom from overwhelm. I said, well, obviously there's more taught in the class than just those 2 sentences. Are there aliens? And his answer was, well, to be honest, I haven't gotten to that level yet, so I don't know what's there. But I haven't heard anything about aliens. I then asked if there was someone that was there at the center that had reached OT3 that I could talk to confirm whether or not they taught about aliens. Because if they did, I told him I didn't know whether or not I could take anything the church taught seriously. He said, well, yeah, there are actually people who have passed OT3 who are here, and sure, you can talk to them. I said, well, can I speak to one now? He said, well, here's the thing. OT3 is a different experience for different people. It is very personal, and they probably wouldn't tell you what they learned anyway. He then said they don't even teach OT3 at this branch. You have to go to Florida or California to reach that level. He then told me that, you really don't even hear about aliens in OT3 that often out there. I then referenced that I Googled OT3 and there were hundreds of websites all confirming what was on South Park was indeed word for word what was taught on OT3. I mentioned that there are interviews where ex-Scientologists confirm it, but I realized that I was driving towards a dead end with this guy and finally decided to move on to the classes because he was not budging. So we had talked about my first class being a communications class, how to effectively speak to others publicly or something like that. It sounded interesting. So he said, okay, here's the deal. There's 2 communications classes you could take. Do you want to take the $30 one that's pretty basic, or the $150 one that's a little more advanced? Now, I had told myself that I would only stay in the church up to the point where I would have to pay any money, but apparently that's not far at all. So I broke down and said, you know what? I'll take the $30 class. He said, all right, let's get started.
There was no haggling?
Nope, that was it.
I got to tip my hat to the gentleman.
Well, he asked me how I was going to pay, and I said cash, of course. Not giving him my credit card, and I plunked down $30. He said, okay, here's your workbook, and I'm going to need you to sign this real quick for me. Mm-hmm. In front of me was a contract on official Scientology letterhead written in small type, front to back. My knee-jerk reaction was to say, this is weird. He said to me, no, it's no big deal, just some housekeeping legal stuff. After looking at the contract for about 3 seconds, I knew right away there was no way in hell I was going to sign this thing. I asked him, listen, could you make me a copy of the contract so I could go over it at home before deciding to sign it? And he said no, they did not want their contracts leaving the building. He then said, but don't worry, I'll go over the whole thing with you right now if you'd like. And I think he was taken by surprise when I said, yes, please do that. Here's among the things that I would have had to have agreed to with this contract. Number 1, that I wouldn't sue if the class did not work. Also, that I would not ask for my donations back that I had given the church. That I had never been in a mental institution. That I had never been arrested. This one was interesting. That I had no affiliation with an organization intended to harm or embarrass Scientology. He then listed as examples members of the media, like newspaper writers or bloggers. This one was even stranger, that I was not married to, related to, or associated with someone who does not approve of Scientology. And an example used was, if you have a friend that keeps telling you that Scientology sucks or is all about aliens, a la our conversation before, Scientology may not work for you. And here's the one that kind of disturbed me the most. That they had the right to keep in a file all information learned about you in the learning and auditing sessions, and in return, I believe, would not release them to the authorities. He gave an example of someone confessing during an auditing session that they had shot someone or had an abortion, and they did not want it to get out. So obviously, there was no way I was signing this piece of paper.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a good decision legally.
No,
from what you say.
Right. So I told him, listen, maybe I'll come back to take the class. And he goes, in the meantime, would you like to watch a video about Dianetics? I said, sure, why not? So he